Hey adventurers, so today is going to be my review of Towers of Midnight by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. So this is epic fantasy, high fantasy, the same thing as the rest of the books in the Wheel of Time series has been. Let's go ahead into this. First, before I will mention quickly, so when my computer went down, when my computer died and I had to take a break from filming and editing and everything, I wrote a whole bunch of reviews, and so what you're going to be seeing for the next several reviews are videos that I wrote but couldn't film. And so if my thoughts are a little disjointed, it's because I don't remember them off the top of my head because I didn't write them right before filming. I wrote them and it's been maybe who knows how long, weeks since I actually wrote the review. So just mentioning that real quickly, but let's get on into this review. So Towers of Midnight is the 13th book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. This is the penultimate book in the series and has a lot of ground to cover before the last battle, but it actually moves us forward substantially, so that's a very good thing. Before I get on into the main body of this review, though, I just quickly like to say welcome to an Erudite adventure. Thank you guys for watching. My name is T. If you like what you're seeing from us, please like, comment, and subscribe. All right. So there are a ton of things that happened in this book, and after 4 months, there isn't a lot that has stuck around in my mind as extremely interesting, and that's 4 months from the time of reading the book to the time of writing this review, and it's been even probably another 2 or 3 weeks since I actually wrote the review, maybe only a week and a half or two, but still, there's not a lot that stuck around in my mind, and as terribly interesting. I had to kind of go back and reread some what's it called, and plot overviews and stuff like that, and just to try and refresh what happened in this book so that I could actually remember what my thoughts on the book and on the events were so that I could write this review. And that is bad. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want to just not be doing anything, not be writing, not be reviewing during this time when I couldn't, when I couldn't film, because I didn't want to get behind on my reviewing. And so I wanted to actually sit down and write them and trying to get a little bit caught up on my review. So that's rambling. That's not part of the review. Let's continue in here so that people who actually came for the review can watch the review. Mostly we see powers being established and accords being made, and this is really from just about every major main character in the series, and that's good things, I guess you can say. That's actually positive aspect of the book. In my last few reviews of the series, I've talked about specific characters' stories, but that's not really necessary with this book, for at least for the way that I'm reviewing it. It could be, but really it's only Perrin and Matt that I have anything to say about. Yes, it's nice to see the Dragon Reborn and the Amerlin seat face off and the things that happen around that, but that was absolutely not what I was reading for in this specific book. I'll come back to that in a second. Perrin's storyline here of him dealing with the White Cloaks was kind of rough. There was a trial and it just felt like miscommunication galore. But then some things happened and he ends up using his abilities and his knowledge and skills as a leader to predict a trap and counterstrike, ultimately saving a ton of lives and leading to reconciliation, or towards reconciliation, even if it's not quite achieved completely. The trial was rough, but the battle part was much, much better. The trial was just not terribly well written, in my opinion, and I know that's not an uncommon opinion to have. But then we go back to Matt's storyline, and I was waiting the entire book, and past few books actually, for this Towers of Midnight storyline to actually happen. And then we finally go off pursuing it, and we spend a very, very small amount of time on this part. I was admittedly quite a bit disappointed in that. We learn a handful of things, and the world suddenly makes a bit less sense to me, and then the story is over. That's it. We're just done. It felt very rushed and much more underwhelming than I was hoping for. It does set up a few interesting things for the finale, but overall just didn't have the impact I was hoping for, and that's kind of disappointing because I'd been looking forward to this Towers of Midnight storyline for probably 4 or 5 books at this point, that we've been leading towards it, and I know that that's where we're headed and that's what it means. And then I'm recalling things from the past books as I continue reading and as I continue watching other people talk about this series, and I'm like, oh, I'm more and more excited for this Towers of Midnight storyline. And then we get there and it's just like, oh, boom, done, it's over. And you're like, well, okay, then I guess we'll just move on past that. I guess it wasn't that important, even though it's hugely important. So I was definitely disappointed in that a little bit. Overall, I thought this was a solid book, and it really did finally set the pieces in place for the last battle. But I still feel that there is a very long ways to go before we can get there. I'm glad to be coming to the end of the series, finally. It's been decent, but not great, and I don't see it becoming a favorite series for me at all, even with the few very strong books that it has had. And that's unfortunate for me that that's the case, where I have liked a lot about this series. There's been books that I've really loved in the series, but overall it's just been kind of, it felt almost more like homework for the fantasy genre and the fantasy reading community than it did like enjoyment and personal, personal enjoyment, reason, desire to keep reading the books. I did want to keep reading them. I've wanted to read them for many years, and so I am definitely glad to have gone through this series, but it's taken far longer than I wanted it to, and it's been not nearly as good as I wanted it to, and that's disappointing. There have been some high points. There have been some really good stuff in this series, and I don't regret the time that I spent reading it. I just didn't love every moment of it as much as I was hoping to. So anyways, that is my review for Towers of Midnight by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and our social media is linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.